Here.
Benedict.
Present.
Gruffel.
Here.
Glover.
Present.
Mendez.
Here.
Porterfield.
Present.
Roten.
Here.
Sledge.
Here.
Suara. Syracuse.
Present.
Toombs is present. Bercher.
Here.
Young. Scrolling through, make sure I didn't miss. We have 11 in attendance. Chair.
All right, thank you. We have a quorum. I'm going to read the electronic meeting motion, and I'll need a motion in a second. Pursuant to Governor Lee's executive order number 65 regarding electronic meetings, I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council, and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so we're properly moved and seconded. Director Cooper, is there any discussion? Seeing none, Director Cooper, we take the roll call vote, please.
Yes, ma'am. Allen? Or was that an aye?
Yes, it was. Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Gruffel?
Aye.
Glover?
Aye.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge?
Aye.
Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Bercher?
Aye.
11 in favor, 0 against.
All right, motion carries. We will start with the consent agenda. There are 10 items on consent. BL 2020-491, Resolution 2020-660, 661, 662, 663, 667, BL 2020-533, 536, 540, and 541. Are there any that need to come off consent before I go through and read the captions? All right. Councilman Glover?
Yes, I'd like to pull 491, please.
Okay. Are there any others? All right, I don't see any other hands, so I will go through and read the captions. Resolution 2020-660, Toombs Taylor Welch approves an amendment to a contract between the Metro Board of Health and Vanderbilt University School of Medicine to participate as a member site in the CDC tuberculosis trials consortium studies. Resolution 2020-661, Toombs Taylor Bradford Housing and Suara accepts a grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development to the Metro Social Services Commission to fund 2 staff positions for the Homeless Management Information System. Resolution 2020-662, Toombs, Gamble, Hancock, and Suara accepts a DNA capacity enhancement and backlog reduction program grant from the U.S. Department of Justice to the Metro Nashville Police Department to increase the capacity of publicly funded forensic DNA and DNA database laboratories. Resolution 2020-663, Toombs, Gamble, Hancock, and Suara accepts a donation of 50,000 N95 Moldex disposable respirators from the Celanese Corporation to the Office of Emergency Management to help fight the COVID-19 pandemic. Resolution 2020-667, Toombs expresses Metro Council's preference concerning reports from the Department of Finance. Bill 2020-533, Allen O'Connell Henderson amends the Metro Code to remove the sunset provision regarding qualified project participation in the Easy Ride MTA RTA commuter program by economic development incentive grant recipients. Bill 2020-536, Van Reese, Toombs, Murphy, Nash, and Gamble authorizes the acquisition of right-of-way easements, drainage easements, temporary construction easements, and property rights for purposes of the Dickerson Pike sidewalk improvements. Bill 2020-540, Sledge, provides honorary street name designation of Reverend Elton Lee Waller Boulevard for a portion of 2nd Avenue South. And Bill 2020-541, Toombs, provides honorary street name designation of Mary Watson Way for a portion of 12th Avenue North. Are there any items that need to come off of consent? All right, I do not see any hands. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
It has been properly moved and seconded. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote?
Ma'am, Allen,
Aye.
Benedict,
Aye.
Russell,
Aye.
Glover,
Aye.
Mendez,
Aye.
Porterfield,
Aye.
Roten,
Aye.
Ledge,
Aye.
Syracuse,
Aye.
Toombs,
Aye.
Vercher. Councilmember Vercher.
Aye.
11 in favor, 0 against.
All right, motion carries. Moving on to the remainder of the agenda, bills on public hearing. Bill 2020-491, Gamble, extends boundaries of the Urban Services District within the jurisdiction of the Metropolitan Government to include properties located in Council District 3 and approves the plan of services. Can I get a motion to get it before the committee?
Ms. Allen, so moved. Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilwoman Gamble, are you on the call? Don't see.
I am, Madam Chair.
Do you want to explain your bill? And then I'll go to Councilman Glover after that.
Thank you. Yes, this is a bill to extend the USD in the general service area in the southern part of our district. It is contiguous that it starts where the USD currently ends. This will help improve the quality of life in the area by providing trash services. There are a lot of rental properties in this area, and people are not paying for private service. They're dumping trash, and we're hopeful that this will alleviate that trash problem because people will get the trash pickup through the city services as well as street lights. There are a lot of elderly people in the area that don't feel safe because it gets very dark at night, and the street lights will help provide safety in the area. There's been quite a bit of community engagement about this since last year. I had 3 in-person meetings before the pandemic hit and several virtual meetings and correspondence through monthly newsletters about this. So everyone is particularly in the affected area, but really throughout the whole district, is aware of this proposal to annex in the USD. They are aware of the increased tax rate, which in many cases is less than someone would currently pay for private trash pickup and a street light at their house. So there's been quite a bit of support for the project. It will add tax revenue to our city's tax base and provide much needed services for the residents in the affected area, which is about 1,500 parcels. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Gamble. Councilman Glover?
Thank you, Chair. I really am not necessarily opposed to this. I would, however, like for it to come back to the committee because tomorrow night, I believe, is the public hearing. I'd like to hear what people have to say, and then this come back to the committee for discussion on the next meeting before we do a final USD or GSD vote on this. So, I mean, I understand the debate of it, but I would just, before I go ahead and move it out of this committee, would like to hear what people have to say tomorrow night and then have it re-referred back into the committee. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll think about that.
Sure.
Thank you, and I appreciate your comments, Councilman Glover. Actually, in the planning committee, it was stated that and I'll state that here, I don't anticipate much, if any, opposition to this. However, if there is a lot of opposition during the public hearing tomorrow, I will be happy to re-refer it to this committee on the floor. I don't want to do that in committee because this project or this bill has to pass a third reading by December 15th in order to get it in time for the January 1st property assessment, so that the residents will have to pay into this for 1 year before receiving services. So if we don't make it for the January 1st property assessment, it will take until January 2022 before we can move forward with this. So I'd like to get it approved by December 15th. So I will be happy to recommend or re-refer on the floor if it deems necessary, but I don't want to defer it in this committee or recommend that in this committee and risk a deferral that would not help us meet that December 15th deadline.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Mr. Cooper, just a quick question for you. Are we able to see when we have annexed other GSDs into USDs on when the actual delivery of services began with regards to street lights and trash pickup? Did it ever exceed 12 months? Because I've heard various things to the contrary there. So I'd just like for you to, if you don't have the answer right now, if you could get that for me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah, we need to get that from Public Works, but I'll make a note to request that.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman Glover. Are there any other questions or comments? I do not see any hands. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Ma'am, Allen,
Aye.
Benedict,
Aye.
Gruffel,
Aye.
Glover,
Aye.
Mendez,
Aye.
Porterfield,
Aye.
Roden,
Aye.
Pledge,
Aye.
Syracuse,
Aye.
Coombs,
Aye.
Vercher,
Aye.
11 in favor, 0 against.
Motion carries. Resolution 2020-652, Druffel declares a June 30th, 2021 sunset of the current property tax rate in Metro Nashville. Councilman Druffel, do you want to move your resolution?
Yes, I do. With brief explanation, I think that it's important for our constituents to understand the budget process, which means that the property taxes are reset every year. I think there's still confusion. I still get emails to help them understand if there'll be another increase, what will be happening next year with the budget. I think this helps clarify that it is reset. And one of the other aspects, I had a couple of people call on whether to determine, tax, will they take the tax increase, incorporate it in their rental increase? They're looking at what are they going to do, how much and how long will this last? I think an opportunity to be able to put that out there, that we will be relooking at that when the budget process comes. We'll give them some maybe greater thought of the need to raise the rent based on the property tax increase. So I've had two property managers check in with me to see what's going to happen. I said, we really don't know. It's going to be based at the budget, but clearly 72% of the reason that the larger property tax increase occurred, that may go away. So I think this is an important resolution to just clarify the budget process. Thank you.
So are you moving for approval?
Yes, please.
Is there a second? And Councilman Druffel has moved for approval of his resolution. Is there a second?
Second, I did a moment ago. I'm sorry.
Okay. I didn't hear you. It's been properly moved and seconded. Moving on to discussion. Councilman Mendez.
Thanks, Chair. I guess my first question is whether, the sponsor's got a substitute in the package, and he referenced it. I'm just curious whether he's moving it. Then I would have a further question.
Oh, my bad. Yeah, I'm going to move the substitute.
Then, Chair, if you wouldn't mind, come back to me after he gets a substitute on.
Councilman Druffel, do you want to explain your substitute?
Yeah, the substitute changes the language that was of concern from the last time, from our last meeting. changed the property tax rate on June 30th, for example, from some mistakes we made. And then again, just really reconciles some other language. There was some question on sunset, but in talking to Mr. Cooper, we feel like it's the same as pretty much reset of the property tax. So it's sort of a fact of our budget process, but it was just cleaning up the language from the last resolution. Thank you.
All right, Councilman Druffel has moved approval of his substitute. Is there a second? All right, it's been properly moved and seconded, and we are on the substitute discussion. Councilman Mendez.
I guess I'll save discussion until after seeing whether the substitute gets added.
Okay. Councilman Glover.
Yeah, and this really can apply to the way the bill was and the substitute both. You know, one thing I would point out, I think it's important. I'm glad the councilman's doing this. While most of us realize how this operates, a lot of the public does not. So I think to have this clarity there, this is the most important thing, in my opinion, that we do every year is the budget. And so I think to offer just simplistic clarity as to how the procedure operates and the way the flow should go every year, I appreciate Councilman Druffel doing this, and I fully intend to support it. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion on the substitute? And Councilman Mendez, you're still holding? Okay, you took your hand down. All right. It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the substitute. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes. Allen?
Aye.
Benedict? Councilmember Benedict? Druffel?
Aye.
Glover?
Aye.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten? Aye. Sledge?
No.
Or was that a no?
Correct.
Okay. Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Bircher? Councilmember going back, Benedict? Okay, that's 8 in favor, 1 against.
All right, motion carries. So now we're on the bill as substituted. Do we need a motion to approve the bill as substituted?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the bill as substituted?
Move it substituted.
Is there a second? I'll second it. It's been properly moved and seconded to approve the bill as substituted. Is there any discussion? Councilman Mendez.
Thank you. I'll be voting against this. I think it is not simplistic, and it doesn't make things easier. I think it's still confusing. Last time there was a reassessment 3.5 years ago, the tax rate automatically went down, and something that I saw was due to appeals, the city's revenue went down as a result of the assessment, and we can expect the same thing to happen this time. And frankly, none of us at all know whether the rates go up or down with the reassessment, given what's going on with the economy. I'm guessing the rate will go down to the reassessment due to the reassessment, probably. Not sure. We can also count on the city's revenue go down the reassessment because of people having appeals of their assessment. And we just don't know what's going to happen. And Councilman Druffel has said that just a couple minutes ago that this just restates facts. But I think it's confusing because it is an incomplete restatement of facts and the process. And I think it's, with all due respect, intended as a feel-good for some constituents, but I don't think it helps clarify anything. So for that reason, I appreciate the sponsor's work, but we'll be voting against it.
If I could make a quick comment, Chair.
Yes.
I think that the intent is to the constituents. And really, if you read at the bottom, it's really, we're committed to take a full look at the need and the new tax levy in the budget process and through a thorough review of the revenues. It's really not meant to obviously confuse, but to, as suggested, as a way to let constituents know the process is re-examined every year. And I think there's a lot of confusion, not only on the property tax and how it's reappraised and how it's reset, but I think just giving everybody a sense of mind that we will be reevaluating this every year is an important feature that many don't know.
Councilwoman Porterfield.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thank you to the sponsor for what I believe to be your intent for the legislation. I do appreciate that you want to make sure that the citizens are informed about the budget process. So I definitely can appreciate that. I do agree with the sentiment of Councilman Mendez. I'm not supporting the legislation at this time because I believe that it is confusing to people. I've received calls over the weekend about this particular legislation, and the question that kept coming up was, doesn't the council look at the budget every year anyway? And I do know that many constituents don't understand that we go through this process on a yearly basis. But I do think that it tends to be confusing when we put forth legislation to say that we are going to do something that we are already doing. So for that reason, I am voting no for this legislation. But as a shameless plug, Councilwoman Toombs and I are doing a lot of educational workshops that have already started, and our next session is this week. So, if we want to make sure that the constituents are informed about the budget process and that they know the ins and outs and that they understand that this body is working as hard as they can to make sure that we have a balanced budget each year, then please invite your constituents to that so that they can learn the budgetary process so that we can have an informed citizenship. So again, thank you for your intent, but I will be voting no on the legislation.
Thank you, Councilwoman Porterfield. I am looking for additional hands. Councilman Mendez, did you have something else?
Yeah, I was just going to mention in reply to Councilmember Druffle's comments that this is respectfully clearly written from the perspective that the tax rate is quote unquote excessive, and that's how it's described in the resolution. And it doesn't give any recognition to property owners who don't think that it was excessive. And clearly it reads like a reassurance to some people that the councilman is going to fight hard to reduce the tax rate. And I would prefer to say that we're going to fight hard to get the tax rate set in the best place for the city. Not get back in a cycle where it's a race to have as low a tax rate as possible, regardless of what the impact on services is. And I don't dispute the council member's intent, but I think it doesn't accomplish the goal. And again, I would urge people to not support this.
Can I respond to that, Chair?
Yes, Councilman Druffle, you can respond, then I'm going to Councilman Young.
Okay, in my recognition, it says that the council recognized that some property owners believe the size of the tax increase approved in June to be excessive. There are some that do believe that. By all means, we needed a tax increase. I think recognizing that many of the comments from our constituents are pretty strong and a little too high, whether correct or incorrect, there was that perception. So I think, again, the ability for constituents to understand that this was a unique time and a lot of the reasons for the property tax increase was based on a couple of features, and that was there. So it isn't the primary part of this. It's really getting to the constituents and letting them know that, again, we'll be resetting the tax. Thank you.
Councilman Young.
Thank you, Chair. I didn't have anything to comment on this bill. I just wanted to make sure that you and Mr. Cooper knew that I had joined the meeting.
All right, thank you. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Chair. I will be supporting it. Let me just say this, maybe you guys talk to a lot of people that are just thrilled to death about this tax increase. The majority of people, the overwhelming majority of people that have reached out to me, and it has been all over the city, I've virtually spoken to no one that felt like a 34 to a 37% property tax increase was anywhere in the ballpark of reasonable. They felt like we should have worked harder. So while this is maybe a little window dressing, I think it's window dressing that is well placed, so where people understand that this body will be looking at it, because I can tell you right now, I will fight to get it lowered because I'm watching the money every month and it looks like we have a surplus. I'll keep tracking that as we go forward, so I will be supporting this. Thank you.
All right, are there any other hands? Let's see. Councilman Syracuse.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say that I do appreciate the sponsor, but I do find myself agreeing with Councilmember Glover that this is window dressing, and I don't think that it's helpful, and I think it does muddy the water. So I unfortunately can't support it, but I do appreciate the intent of wanting to educate folks about the budget process. I just don't think this is the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. I do not see any other hands. So we are on the motion. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes, ma'am. Allen?
No.
Benedict?
No.
Gruffel?
Yes.
Glover?
Yes.
Mendez?
No.
Porterfield?
No.
Roten?
No.
Sledge?
No.
Syracuse?
Oh, no.
Toombs?
No.
Bercher?
No.
Young?
No.
Two in favor, 10 against.
All right. That motion fails, so the committee does not recommend approval. Moving on to Resolution 2020-656, Toombs, Nash, O'Connell, and Bradford expresses the endorsement of the Metro Council for the Metro Nashville Transportation Plan. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
All right, can I get a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. I don't see any hands for discussion, but for the viewing audience, I'm going to have Ms. DeMassimo explain this resolution.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Very good. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to the committee today. As you recall, about a year ago, we started on a journey to develop a new People First transportation plan for Metro Nashville as one of Mayor Cooper's commitments during his campaign. We spent the last year, we've had 2 rounds of meetings with each and every council member We have met with 11 community listening sessions with people all across Metro Nashville, and over 24, I think it's actually closer to 36, stakeholder groups that represent all kinds of interests, whether it's our business community, to immigrant populations, to those with disabilities, to our transit advocacy groups, to those that want to make sure that we have a true multimodal system. And we've been privileged to hear all of their input. Those listening sessions, we treated them genuinely as that, and have had the opportunity to reflect that in the plan that's presented to you now. We made sure to leverage the fine work that's been done over years in Metro Nashville, both by transit, by planning, by our Parks and Rec department and so forth, to make sure that we were taking advantage of all the good work that had been done. We didn't recreate the wheel, but made sure to put this together into a plan that achieves system-level performance. We've noted that 92% of the residents or population and 94% of the employment will be within a half a mile of an improvement throughout Metro Nashville. We created a new tool called Equity by Design. That is a tool that is going to help us to do a better job in building equity into each and every project. And we've, I think, been thoughtful and deliberate about thinking through not only how do we put together the system, but how do we also put together a system of projects that can enable us to be as competitive as possible for funding opportunities that are forthcoming, we believe. So thank you again so much for the opportunity to give that brief overview, and I'm glad to answer any questions.
All right, Councilman Mendez.
Thank you. I'm going to ask a couple questions I think I know the answer to, but just to make sure we've got clarity for the public. First, Ms. DeMalsimo, this says that any changes to the transit plan have to come before the council. For those of us who were here last term, there was an open question about what level of amendments to the transit plan being considered then would require council approval. And so when this says the transportation plan may not be changed or amended unless there's a resolution passed by the Metro Council, does that mean no changes at all or no material changes? How are you all going to interpret that going forward?
I believe it would be no changes at all, sir, because every project that is contained in the plan, even those that, for example, that would come from buckets, will still require an authorization of individual funding from council. And so council will have an opportunity to consider each and every improvement.
So if something comes along in a capital spending plan and it's a little bit different or a lot different than what's in the transit plan, we'll get legislation to amend the transit plan in addition to the capital spending plan?
I would anticipate that would be correct, sir. I'm trying to think through all the possibilities there. But this transportation plan, covers both transit and other kinds of improvements. We want to make sure that it's the framework that then would help to inform the CIB, which would then further inform and be programmed into the CSP. So if there's a need for realignment amongst any of those documents based upon opportunities that may be forthcoming, then that alignment would be accomplished by council action.
All right, thank you. And then I also want to ask about Section 3 in the resolution, which reads, this resolution is not a request for authorization to fund or finance any portion of the transportation plan. Any such request must be addressed by future legislation. In particular, again, for those of us who were here last term, all we ever, the council voted for was to put a $9.5 billion plan on a ballot. And lots and lots of people remember it as the council approving $9.5 billion worth of spending. I know it's not really accurate. And so I know it's on a lot of people's minds about whether we're approving spending $1.6 billion. And I want to hear a clear answer from the administration whether this legislation approves any spending at all, up to and including $1.6 billion.
It does not approve any level of spending. Those spending requests would need to be brought before council again through the CIB and then CSP process, and any other associated council actions that may be necessary. For example, we're very successful, let's say, with a particular funding request. Council would also be required to take an action to accept that funding if we were successful. So, no, this is not it does not authorize $1.6 billion of funding. What it does do, though, is set forward a program that is valued at $1.6 billion that, when accomplished, will substantially improve sort of the foundation of our transportation network, and set us up for, I think, additional future success.
Thank you, Chair. Just to wrap up, I guess my comment to the group would be directionally, I like this non-binding resolution to endorse a plan. We retain control over amending in the future. We retain control before penny one, dollar one gets spent. And my hope is that we are looking at this seriously, with the understanding that if either today or through the course of the meeting tomorrow, substantial questions come up, obviously we should, because it is valued at $1.6 billion, defer in order to let the questions be answered if necessary. But I thank the administration for all the work, and I think this is a good direction for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember.
Councilwoman Verger.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have several questions. My first is this creating a Department of Transportation?
No, ma'am. The plan itself does not. If you will notice on page 81 of the plan, pages 81 through 83, it describes a Department of Transportation. I think calls it by a slightly different name, Department of Mobility and Infrastructure, and describes how that would help us to improve our management and delivery of our transportation infrastructure program. And so there's the consideration of the creation of the Department of Transportation is still ongoing, and is a companion effort to this, but is not included in it proper.
So at what point in the 348-page report, when does that position materialize?
The Department of Transportation?
Yes, I'm asking because you're wanting the council to be on record of supporting a plan that's supposed to be led by a department that doesn't exist yet.
Well, it would be led up until the time that department would exist. It would be led by the Transportation Office of the Department of Public Works, as well as by WEGO on the transit side as it currently is. And in terms of the timing for that, the evaluation, the organizational assessment is still ongoing there for the recommendations and formation of that department, but I would expect it would come, fairly soon.
Okay, and it's mentioned of the Equity by Design tool. Where is that data at? I didn't see the report, or maybe I overlooked it.
Hang on just one second, Councilmember. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to look up the page number for that now. I apologize, I don't have it right in front of me. I'm sorry, give me just one moment to look that up.
Okay, and while you're doing that, what's the strategy as it relates to implementation for that?
Equity and design?
Yeah.
One of the things that we're doing, and I'll answer that, and Fabian's going to look up the page number for me while I answer this question. We are taking the equity and design tool and incorporating that tool into the construction management manual that we are nearly finalizing the development of within the Department of Public Works, which would also ultimately be a tool within a Department of Transportation if one is created. And that, I'm sorry, it's on page 9, is that 94? Page 95 is where the equity and design tool is found. And it would be incorporated into that so that the equity and design tool would actually be a tool that is then used in the design of projects across the board that we would deliver out of the plan.
Okay, I'm on 95. That's not answering. I mean, that's okay. That's more of a conceptual as it relates to trying to achieve equity. This is going to be a tool that you're using. This isn't a tool. So with this tool, which data are you going to use to ensure that this was the issue with the last plan, is that the implementation wasn't going to be rolled out for minority communities. I think in the pipeline, the minority communities were actually last.
Right. On page 96, council member, are the questions that we would go through in the design of each and every project in terms of the prioritization of expenditure of funds and which areas they will go to first. I think that is still in a little bit of a to be determined from the perspective that that's really reliant upon the funding commitments that are going to be necessary. As we just discussed, those will be coming back before council. And we can make sure as a part of the equity and design assessment that's reflected on page 96, we can make sure as those funding requests come back before council that we reflect how the expenditure is being considered across Metro Nashville and particularly with our minority communities.
Okay, and then this is my last question. So for every node and connector in this plan, are these projects already currently in the CIB, or will they have to be amended at some point? I mean, into the CIB.
I think most are in the CIB, but I'm not certain that all are, council members. So both the CIB and the CSP, upcoming actions on those will need to consider this plan as those updates are made.
Okay, so this is what I'm asking. What ends up happening is projects like this ends up pushing back other projects that's already been previously authorized. And we've seen it, this body, we just passed something a few weeks ago that I spoke about as it relates to us piecemealing a transit plan together. The Councilman Mendez question, we've already done that before, and I think he was asking just for the benefit of the public, but we've already done that. We've already done that before. And for my colleagues, we all know that how this process works. These projects are essentially, they end up competing against one another. What I would like to see, because as a body, we've suspended our own rules as it relates to us communicating to the administration what our priorities are as it relates to the capital spending plan. We did that early by the current chair, where the prior chair of the planning had worked, and other council members had worked very diligently to put a process in place where we were communicating to the administration our priorities that we hear from our constituents as it relates to the capital spending plan. But where we are now, we're back to what this resolution is actually suggesting. And what's going to end up happening is that projects that's been communicated to council members, they end up falling further and further behind in the pipeline. And a prime example of that is sidewalks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Glover.
Chair. So, Mr. Cooper, I guess I'm going to ask the question of you first on this, and then to perhaps transportation. In my reading of this, it is not, and I believe Councilman Mendez alluded to this, there's no spending of any money whatsoever in this resolution.
That's correct. No spending.
So why is it before Budget and Finance?
I think because the plan itself envisions that there will obviously need to be future spending, and so it made sense that it be referred to Budget and Finance.
Okay. The part that scares me the most is the 1.6 billion out there. You know, we can pretend all we want to. We understand how this works and et cetera. The public does not. One of the things I'm having heartburn on this is the fact that it does have a dollar amount mentioned in it. And that is troublesome for a lot of people that have contacted me. So, you know, I don't necessarily, I understand the concept of wanting to get it out there to where if grants or this or that is made available, then we're kind of in line. It's kind of the way I understood it and the way it was somewhat explained. Is that correct? And I guess Faye may be the one to answer that one. I don't know.
And could you repeat your question, Councilmember Glover?
My question was this. All right, and Mr. Cooper already answered that it's in here just because they're anticipating future spending. The 1.6 billion is concerning me greatly because the people don't really understand that this is just kind of a placeholder to a degree. With that, and with it having to come back for any spending, et cetera, it was my understanding with this, it is merely a placeholding, but the 1.6 billion, what I'm most concerned about, because I've been around this a long time, is people will come back and say, well, the council voted for this unanimously. And so it worries me on that aspect of it. And that's one reason I'm questioning it coming to Budget and Finance now, because there are no dollars attached. And I'm a little perplexed as to why it's there. So am I reading this right? Am I understanding it correctly? This is more of a place setter or a placeholder, I should say, more than anything else.
Well, it is a plan. It's a plan to express what our community desires are based upon the year of outreach and work that we did, the listening, meeting with the groups and so forth. So I would say I wouldn't call it a placeholder because that I think discounts its meaning, but it also requires, as Councilmember Mendez has already reiterated and we've discussed earlier, it does require any funding that is committed to it has to come back before council.
Okay. All right. Well, I can't get real comfortable here because of that 1.6 billion being in it. I'll kind of think on it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Porterfield.
Thank you so much, Chair. I would like to move for a 1 meeting deferral, please.
Second.
All right, it has been properly moved and seconded for a 1 meeting deferral. Is there any discussion? Councilman Mendez?
Thanks. On the deferral, I'll get to that in a second, but I wanted to comment on Councilman Glover's points. Is the administration, I think, would tell you, I spent much of the last 3 months asking the same question that Councilman Glover asked, which is, what is this thing? Like, what are we doing with the legislation? Why does it say $1.6 billion if it's non-binding? How do we fit those two thoughts together? I guess I'm happy to have either Mr. Cooper or the administration correct me if I get some of this wrong, but I ended up doing some independent legal research and then running it by Faye. And the deal is that in order to put us in a position to be able to get funding, to be eligible for funding, we need a, quote, transportation plan, unquote, that rolls up into a regional and state plan. And pursuant to federal law, in order to have a thing that's called a transportation plan, quote unquote, a technical term, you need to lay out expected potential cost for the improvements that you're talking about. However, under that same law, a municipal transportation plan is not required to be a commitment. And so when I pin down that lack of understanding on my part with the administration, that answer for me, the what are we doing here? The term transportation plan has a technical meaning under applicable federal law, and in order to put ourselves in a position, we're trying to hit the marks of what federal law requires to be in a transportation plan, capital T, capital P, and laying out these sort of expected costs is one of the requirements. I guess I'll just ask Faye whether I got that right, because that's relatively new knowledge for me.
You did indeed, sir. They typically expect a project description that gives some sort of an overall, perhaps project termini and an overall description, as well as costs and any other material things, for example, the benefit and so forth of a project that would influence its both contribution to the overall system and its competitiveness.
Thank you. And with that, Chair, I as I mentioned earlier, this is a big enough deal where if there are material questions, I absolutely think that deferral is appropriate. So I'll be supporting that motion. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Vercher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We were a little out of order because the motion was on the floor, and I wanted to speak on the deferral, but I guess we can just go ahead and take the vote on the deferral.
Okay. And I don't see any other hands in the queue. Councilman Mendez, I assume yours is up from your previous comments. Okay. So we are on the motion to defer for one meeting. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Allen?
Aye.
Benedict?
Aye.
Gruffel?
Aye.
Glover?
Aye.
Mendez?
Aye.
Porterfield?
Aye.
Roten?
Aye.
Sledge?
Aye.
Syracuse?
Aye.
Toombs?
Aye.
Vercher?
Aye.
Young?
Aye.
12 in favor, 0 against.
All right, resolution 2020-656 is deferred one meeting. Resolution 2020-657, Gamble, Johnston, Sepulveda, and Welch appropriates $29,822,775 in CARES Act funds to certain accounts for the benefit of various metro government departments. Can I get a motion?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Councilwoman Gamble, are you still on the call?
Yes, Madam Chair. Thank you.
All right.
I would like to move to defer resolution 657, and I'm not sure if I can go on and include 658 in that to allow more time for discussion by the full council at the Chair Toombs special call budget meeting. The committee took a lot of consideration in these two resolutions, but we do recognize the need to have further discussion by the full council about them before they're passed. And so I would like to recommend a deferral of resolutions 657 and 658 for further discussion by the council. So deferral for one meeting.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded that we defer for one meeting, resolution 2020-657 and 658. Is there any discussion on the deferral motion? Councilman Mendez?
Thanks. I support a deferral. I just want to, because I know we're going to run out of time before the end of the year, to share for the sponsors and clients my questions. I have continuing questions about Section 4 and Section 8 legislation. In both instances, I believe I understand the mechanism where COVID funding used to reimburse Metro. Then expected savings in Metro's budget will go to special revenue account. Both sections 4 and 8 read like they would leave finance or the administration with discretion about how to spend any money that ends up in the special revenue account. And I believe those should be subject to further appropriations by the council. I appreciate the deferral in order.
All right, any other comments, concerns on the deferral motion? I don't see any other hands. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote?
Chair, if you don't mind, for the record, can we get the caption for 658?
Sure. Resolution 2020-658, Johnston, Gamble, Hancock, Welch, and Suarez accepts recommendations of the COVID-19 Financial Oversight Committee, amending Resolution 2020-394 to expand the permitted use of funds, thereby allowing Metro Nashville Public Schools to use CARES Act funds for student and teacher laptop computers, hotspots, and pre-K through grade 12 virtual curriculum for students with school supplies for learning at home.
Thank you. Councilmember Allen.
Aye.
Benedict.
Aye.
Truffle.
Aye.
Glover.
Aye.
Mendez.
Aye.
Porterfield.
Aye.
Roten. Aye. Sledge.
Aye.
Syracuse.
Aye.
Toombs.
Aye.
Vercher.
Hey, Coop, I just want to make sure this is on the deferral, right? The motion wasn't reiterated. This is on the deferral.
A deferral of 657 and 658.
Thank you. Aye.
Young.
Aye.
12 in favor, 0 against.
All right, motion carries. Resolution 2020-657 and 658 are deferred for one meeting. Going on to Resolution 2020-659, Toombs appropriates $18,054,600 from the General Fund Reserve Fund for the purpose of equipment and building repairs for various departments of Metro government. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? I do not see any hands. All right, so we are on the motion to approve Resolution 2020-659. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote?
Allen.
No.
Benedict.
No.
Truffle.
Aye.
Glover.
No.
Mendez.
Yes.
Porterfield.
Yes.
Roten. Councilmember Roten. Sledge.
Aye.
Syracuse.
Aye.
Toombs.
Aye.
Vercher.
No.
And then no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Councilmember Vercher. The vote didn't come through. Was that a yes or a no?
It's a N-O.
Okay, thank you. Young.
Yes.
Seven in favor, 4 against.
All right, motion carries. Moving on to Resolution 2020-665, Hall, Vercher, Taylor, and Welch. Request Mayor Cooper to immediately cease the wind down process at the Bordeaux Long-Term Care Facility and work to secure an agreement with an emergency operator to keep the residents safely in place during the pandemic. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is Councilman Hall on the call?
I'm here.
Councilman
Can you hear me?
Hall? Yes, I can hear you. Can you explain
Okay, there we go.
Are you wanting to move your resolution?
So I am. I'll be really brief. We've discussed this extensively. We know past mistakes. We know bad business models. At the end of the day, this has clearly been discussed at length. The bottom line is we have a moral obligation to take our time here. There is no absolute rush. There is no problem. We're looking at how we're moving money from one place to the next and taking a beat and looking at preserving a facility that may eventually close, but should not be closed during the middle of a pandemic. And despite all of the rhetoric back and forth that we've heard about this facility exists, and it's one of a kind. And during an economic downturn and global pandemic, it stands to reason that despite moving folks out, you have as many people who need a place to go moving forward as we're moving out. And so this originated with the council body making a determination, and I believe that it should come back to this council body to make a determination on if and when to do a wind down, and not from the administration. Thank you.
Councilman Glover?
Chair, I agree with the sponsor on this. You know, I was on the council when this vote first came up. This has been nothing but a disaster since we made the move back several years ago. And unfortunately, it's people's lives that are being played with. And, you know, I don't know. I haven't been out there. I understand there's not a lot of folks left in the facility right now. But certainly, I agree with the concept that the council is the one who got us in this, and it absolutely should have been the one that was getting us out of it. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Mr. Jameson, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The council members received an admittedly lengthy memo from me on Wednesday afternoon, and that set forth the background to the issues leading to this resolution and essentially where we are. A few updates since then. There are 14 patients left from a facility that had bed licenses of 419 in number. Consulting the medical staff at Signature, as well as the physicians at our own Department of Health, all are in agreement that it is medically in the best interest of the patients themselves that the patient transfers continue. As Signature wrote to the council and forwarded to the council members on November 16th, and I'm quoting, "Most importantly, we do not believe that it is in the best interest of the remaining patients at the Bordeaux facility to interrupt the process now. Practically stopping the wind down now would be extremely disruptive." Dr. Stephanie Bailey echoed her own adamant agreement that the transition process should not be stopped. These patients are being moved to facilities of their choosing. And while this is happening, Signature staff is also leaving, most importantly, their leadership and clinical employees. If the wind down were stopped in a hypothetical sense, we cannot stop the Signature staff from leaving, and that would be disastrous. Halting the transfers is also not viable in any legal or practical sense. Signature has a contract with Metro, and that does not provide for pausing their wind down of the process. Signature also submitted all of the required notices to state and federal authorities that are required when a medical facility begins closing down. Those have gone out, and there is no reversal process. All of the employment notices have been sent, and the severance packages have been implemented with no interruption contemplated. The transfer process began pursuant to a contract approved by the council starting in 2016. Again, all of the patients are choosing which facilities they want to go to. They are all covered. They're all covered by Medicare, Medicaid, and all are being transferred to a facility that they choose. Signature has the contract with Metro that guarantees them the right to wind down. The extension that was negotiated with them when we could not find another operator granted Metro 90 days to either get a new operator or participate in the wind down. If we can't find any operators who will go through a transparent process, because none submitted any interest in the RFQ proposals, who would an emergency operator be that would go through a transparent process now? Also, I want to reassure council members this wind down process does not thwart Nashville General Hospital's ability to assume responsibilities here if that is their choice and if that is the choice of the council. But putting these patients in a position where they're not able to be transferred any further while the Signature staff is leaving per their contractual rights, that is a dangerous position to be in, and we must respectfully request that you not support this resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Councilwoman Porterfield.
Thank you so much, Chair. I'm really having a hard time with this one. I am of the belief that we should have never started a wind down process during the pandemic. My concerns now are for the remaining residents and their health. So I am a little, I'm just in a hard spot with this one. I did have a question for the administration. If they have an answer to it, Mr. Jameson did speak on, they've been advised that this could hurt the residents to stop the wind down process. Was there any conversation or were there any medical professionals that you all consulted with or that the administration consulted with prior to the beginning of the wind down process? So did any medical professionals give you all the green light to say that this was a good idea to move forward with moving residents in the middle of a pandemic? I think that right now we are in the unfortunate position of we are having to react to actions that have already happened, as opposed to having the ability to be proactive on the front end, to have this conversation about if the wind down process would have even began. So again, just to clarify my question, medical professionals are saying that it will be harmful to the patients to stop the process. Did any medical professionals consult with you all and say that it will be wise to start the process given the conditions that we are facing right now?
What we have been told by Signature's medical staff is that they do a sort of a three-part process when there is a transfer contemplated. There's what they call a readiness for travel assessment, and they look at the patient. Is this patient in a good position? Are they ready, willing, and able to transfer? If and only if the answer is yes, do they then go on to select the patient or their family selects 3 facilities out of the 2 or 3 dozen we have in Davidson County to travel to, or to go out of state or out of county if they choose that. Signature then conducts a follow-up with the transferred patient to make sure there's been no mishap, no harm to the patient, certainly no death. They have done that. There have been no reports of any of those consequences or negative outcomes. Also, keep in mind that throughout this process, the state is overseeing the wind down process. And if there is any harm or certainly a death that comes to a patient, either in the process of or immediately after a transfer or as the result of a transfer, the state begins an investigation. There has been no investigation in this instance because there has been no report of any patient death occurring in the process of transfer, immediately after a transfer, or attributed to a transfer. So throughout, the Signature medical staff has been part of that advice, part of that process, and we've relied upon them. We have also turned to our own Director of Public Health and Deputy Director, Dr. Bailey, for her input and assessment on how these transfers are done, and she is in agreement.
Madam Chair, may I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you for that answer, Mr. Jamison. I don't know, maybe I'm not asking my question properly. I appreciate you informing us of the process and how it has worked, but I'm specifically asking if the administration consulted with medical professionals to weigh the risk of transferring patients in the winter, high-risk patients in the middle of a pandemic. So we know on the back end, people are saying, the medical professionals are now saying that it will be harmful to stop the process. Did we get that same medical consulting on the front end to see how this could impact the patients?
At this point, I really did think I was responding to your question about how their staff recommends the transfer process, why it's safe and why it's appropriate, and the precautions that they take. I don't know if Mary Falls or Tom Cross are on the line with this because they were having the face-to-face conversations with representatives on the front end, but I thought I was answering the question, and I apologize.
So Councilwoman Porterfield, in the sake of, for the sake of time, I think that getting into like the physical assessment of the residents is probably more so for the Health and Hospitals Committee, and this is a bill that goes before Health and Hospitals. So if you could get those, either follow up with the administration or get those questions during that committee meeting, so that we can move on with the discussion, because we have 3 more items on the agenda. Thank you, Councilwoman. And I'm looking for other hands on Resolution 2020-665, and I do not see any other hands. Mr. Jameson, is your hand left over?
I'm sorry, ma'am. I'll take that down. I apologize.
Okay. So we are on the motion to approve Resolution 2020-665. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes. Allen? Actually, she did. She had to jump off to in another meeting. Benedict?
No.
Gruffle?
No.
Glover?
Aye.
Mendez?
No.
Porterfield?
Abstain.
Roden? Sledge?
Aye.
Syracuse?
No.
Toombs?
Abstain.
Bercher?
Aye.
Young?
No.
Three in favor, 5 against, 2 abstentions.
All right. Motion fails, so committee does not recommend approval of Resolution 2020-665. Moving on to late file resolution by Toombs, accepts a Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act grant from the Northern Middle Tennessee Local Workforce Development Board to the Metro Action Commission to establish programs and services in an integrated workforce system as the career services provider through the American Job Center. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. It's been properly moved and seconded, and I know a letter was sent explaining why this was late filed. Director Cooper, is there anyone on the call that can talk about this resolution? I see Ms. Kroon. Ms. Kroon, am I saying it right?
Yes. Hi. Good afternoon or good evening. This was, as you all know, NCAC several years ago used to have these dollars, and they lost those dollars when they lost their workforce funding. We were given an opportunity to apply to get those dollars back for the youth, both in school and out of school youth. And so we applied and were awarded the Davidson County dollars back to Metro government. It's a late file because when we were awarded the money, the deadline had already passed by the time the attorneys were able to review the contract. We must be operational by January 1st. And this grant requires us to hire 3 additional people. That's why we needed to go ahead and bring it before council so that we can get it approved in order to move forward to be ready to go live on January 1.
Councilmember Toombs, you're muted.
I was looking for any other hands and I don't see any other, Councilwoman Vercher.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to just always thank Ms. Kroon for her work and going out and seeking out those grants to help our citizens here in the city. And you know, she's that team over there. They do a great job in searching out and looking for those grants. I just wanted to give her kudos as it relates to that.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I do not see any other hands, so we are on the motion to approve the late file resolution. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes, Councilmember Benedict.
Aye.
Druffel.
Aye.
Glover.
Aye.
Mendez.
Aye.
Porterfield.
Aye.
Roten. Sledge. Councilmember Sledge. Syracuse.
Aye.
Toombs.
Aye.
Vercher.
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
9 in favor, 0 against.
Director Cooper.
Councilwoman Sora.
Sorry, just joining late. I want to be recorded as aye on that vote.
Okay.
All right, motion carries. We are down to our last 2 items on the agenda. Both are bills on second reading. Bill 2020-505, Whole, directs the Metro purchasing agent to enter into an emergency contract for the continued operation of the Bordeaux Long-Term Care Facility for the remainder of fiscal year 2021, and affirming the council's intention that the current appropriation in the fiscal year 2021 operating budget for the Bordeaux Long-Term Care Facility management be used to fund the emergency contract. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Councilwoman Benedict?
Thank you, Chair. So, as we were just talking about on the prior bill in regards to this facility, you know, we're in a real unfortunate position, as a couple of my colleagues, in particular, Councilwoman Porterfield, spoke about. And at this point, however, the wind down, which, and I'm not going to rehash that issue, we can talk about it in health and hospitals, but where we are at this point, it doesn't make sense to stop the wind down, in my opinion, because there's so few people there. However, what I would rather see us use funding for is to follow up with these patients that have been moved, to see if we can use the remaining, rather than have this this resolution, or rather this bill go through, what I think we need to focus on now is how are we going to care for these patients going forward? And so an emergency contract, in my opinion, and funding this is not the way to go right now, but rather I'd like to see this committee, and I'll be working through the council office to see if we can create a resolution to direct any funds towards this facility, towards the patient care in the longer term, as we round out this fiscal year, to give us, to ensure that the transitions that have taken place are keeping the patients in the best possible health, and that we're using these funds, or any funds relative to Bordeaux Long-Term Care Facility to that end, since the wind down again is almost complete. So, Chair, I just wanted to share those thoughts as I plan to work on that in the next couple of weeks. But as it relates to any funding for this, I would hope that as a committee we could look at doing something like that, rather than trying to keep a facility open that is already almost wound down. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Member. Councilwoman Suara?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry again that I'm late, and I'm sorry I missed the conversation on the last resolution, and so I hope I'm not repeating everything that's been said. But I do want to, Mr. Jamison, this is I have a constituent reach out to me today, and I don't know, it may not be budget related, but about a family member that has a respiratory problem, and some of the places we're recommending do not have that. Who do they talk to? What is, and you may have discussed it again, I'm sorry for being late, but are we working with these families to make sure that those needs are met as we're trying to find a solution to this mess?
Correct, Councilor. There was a sub-provider, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name, that provided respiratory care that is setting up their new facility operation in the Skyline facility. I don't know if Mary is still on the line with us, but she was having the most recent contact with that provider. They are still in business and operating, so if your constituent is being, if there's any way you can have them contact our office so we can make sure they're making the right connections through Signature, we would be absolutely delighted to intervene. But Signature has been very cooperative and helpful in making sure that each patient gets to any particular sub-provider that they've had, and I'm sure we can do the same here.
Okay, I'll thank you. I'll be glad to send that your way. Like everybody said, this has been a messed up process, to say the least. But we are where we are now, and I think the priority is making sure that the families and the loved ones get the utmost care, and they're in a place that can deal with all that they need to deal with. So, but thank you for that. I will make sure that I send that your way, and I'll follow up with her as well. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much. And Madam Chair, I did have my hand raised, so if I can be recognized, but at the conclusion of other council members, I'd be grateful.
Okay, I'll go to Councilman Glover and then back to you, Mr. Jamison.
Thank you, Chair. So I guess really my question may be answered by Mr. Cooper and Mr. Jamison both. I'm going to go to Mr. Cooper first, if I may, Chair. Mr. Cooper, if this bill passes, then if everything does wind down, then we're not committed to the dollars. I mean, there'd be nothing to spend it on if it was in fact gone by the first of the year. Am I reading that correctly or incorrectly?
That's correct. The ordinance is, it includes a provision stating that it's the council's intent that whatever money from that current appropriation is remaining be used to fund a new contract. But obviously, if those funds are spent during the wind down and there's nothing or very little left, then the council would still have to come back and approve a new contract if the council elected to go that route.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to make this, and then I know Mr. Jamison is going to make a comment, so I will let him make the comment based on what I'm about to say. You know, I feel bad for so many of these people that are out there, because this has been pretty much so a disaster since we got into the business. If we were going to move it, everything was going to be fine. It was all going to be fixed. And literally, it has not been fixed. And unfortunately, human life is the one who's paid the price on this. And not necessarily through death, but through, not proper care. I'm not going to point fingers at any particular one, but, this really has been handled very poorly from the very beginning. So, I mean, I'm going to support this simply because if there is one person left, I want to make sure that one person is taken care of. And again, if I read it correctly, if it's gone, then it's gone. If everything winds down and operates perfectly, as we're being told by the administration, then it's kind of a moot point anyway. So with that, I'll be supporting it. Mr. Jamison, I'll hush and let you speak if you're next in line. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Jamison.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councilman Glover. I think the first thing to be aware of in acknowledging our respectful opposition to this ordinance is Signature would have to agree to halting the wind down, and they're not going to agree to that. They have a contract with Metro that grants them this resolution process I think Mr. Cooper states this in his analysis, that Signature would have to agree. So even adopting the ordinance doesn't put us in a position to demand that Signature do something other than what their contract gives them the right to do. The council voted to get out of the long-term care business twice in the last two councils. And the question that you would have to then decide if you were to pass this would be who would operate this now? We had an RFQ and 0 facilities stepped up to operate what is now a business model that has not proven lucrative in the rest of the country. And there is no other city in Tennessee that operates a government-subsidized nursing facility for this very reason. The biggest problem, however, is that if the rate Signature is transferring patients to other facilities that those patients choose, they will be at 0 patients before this ordinance gets to third reading. And so you'd be entering an emergency contract for an operator to come in, assuming you found one, to care for 0 patients. The 0 patient wind down has no bearing on Nashville General Hospital's ability to pick this up if that is the council's desire. To quote Council Lady Benedict, halting the wind down is not in the best interest of the patient, and perpetuating this through an emergency contract when you'll have 0 patients is not in the best interest of Metro. This was the determination of previous councils, and this is, we hope, the determination of this council. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Jamison. Councilman Hall, do you want to speak on your bill?
Briefly, Mr. Cooper, or if there's someone on from finance, the remaining budget allocated funds for the facility, what would happen to those post wind down without the council actually reallocating those funds?
They would go to the undesignated fund balance.
And so when we're having this conversation, and again, we beat the horse on the wind down conversation. We're leaving out each time who is not being admitted because of the wind down and needs somewhere to go. And the fact that the wind down is happening despite the council approving it or voting for it in the past, not voting for it now, and forgetting who triggered the wind down. We know it is contractual, but we also know we did an RFP that lasted all of 27 days. And since then, multiple entities have shown interest in the facility, but aren't even getting a phone call back from anyone. That aside, we need to determine what's going to happen with this 2.6 million, because if it closes in January, and if we're saying not only are we going to wind down, we're not going to take any more, we're not going to consider where anybody is gone or where they're going, we need to have an honest conversation about these funds, because we're already now in the business of reallocating funds to pay our own bills to keep CARES Act money. So if we're going to be completely honest and transparent, we need to do that. But at the end of the day, this money was allocated for this facility for this year, and it should remain there. And if it can be utilized toward this facility, it should be. If and when this facility has completely wound down, then we can have a conversation about recouping those funds the same way I was talking about recouping funds from Nashville General during the budget and post-budget that this body did not choose to do, but now is doing with other CARES Act money. And so at the end of the day, again, we've gone through it extensively. I'm okay with whatever the decision is made. But we need to have an open and transparent conversation about what money is left, what it is for, what happens to it, because it is an absolute factor in why we're winding this place down. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. I am looking at the list of hands. Councilman Glover, did you? Okay, it went down. Oh, Councilman Glover, did you have something to add? Councilman Glover?
Chair, I'm taking it down now.
Okay. Councilmember Benedict?
If I may follow up, if that'd be all right, Chair?
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. I think I want to speak to the points that were just said. One, the wind down is almost done, but we have an opportunity to go and check and make sure that these folks are adapting to their new living environment. We have, with the funds that are available, rather than taking on new patients, because the facility currently, because number one, we don't have a provider because no one did respond to the RFP, we could send out a new RFP and get those, and try to get somebody involved to take on new patients. But right now, my concern is for the patients who were moved during a pandemic, who are already a population that's a demographic that has high risk. My partner works in this industry, and I know for none of the companies involved, there's nothing else there, but just from her experience, I know that any type of a transition like this jeopardizes someone's health. I would recommend that as a committee, we look at the extra funds and put them towards the caretaking of these patients, just as we had done up until this wind down. So again, it's terrible that we're at this point where it's winding down, but we, instead of, as the bill sponsor was just describing, we have the opportunity to further take care of these patients and to use taxpayers' dollars, which were allocated in this budget year for the care of these patients. We can still use that money for the cares of these patients to make sure that they're thriving in their new living environment. So I think that would be a better use of the money than to try to put somebody in place without going through an RFP process. And so therefore, I am not going to be in support of this bill. Thank you again, Chair, for indulging me.
Thank you, Councilmember. I am going to go to Councilwoman Porterfield, then Councilwoman Suara, and we want to wrap up the conversation on this because we do have one last agenda item. So Councilwoman Porterfield.
Thank you so much, Chair. I do have a question for Director Cooper. Just one clarifying point on the legislation based on something that Councilman Hall just stated, and I just want to make sure that it is explicitly clear. Is this legislation allocating new funding for the emergency contract, or is this to allocate the remaining funds that were previously allocated to Signature? So are we using remaining funds that we have already allocated, or are we now allocating new funds?
We would be using, assuming funds are allocated, are left over that have been allocated, that's the funding that would be used. It does not allocate any new funding. That would require subsequent legislation.
Thank you, Director.
Councilwoman Suara.
Thank you, Chair. That was my question as well, but I also want to go ahead and support what Councilmember Benedict said, knowing that there are people that have not been moved, knowing that there are people that have special need, that some of these facilities are not taken care of, knowing that there will be continued need for some of these patients, I would strongly support that the money should not go into undesignated. The money should go into care of the people at Bordeaux for as long as we need to take care of them until they reacclimate or get used to where they are, if that's where we're going. And I also want to say that I know that Mr. Jamieson always talk about the vote by council two or three times ago. I don't know. For me, I just find it annoying, to say the least, because I think that those decisions were made without the pandemic, without the situation that we are. And so using that as an excuse all the time, I don't think is the best thing. It just makes us seem as if we're not, what is the word I'm looking, empathizing with the people that are being involved. These are people's lives, and decision 2 or 3 years ago should not be the main reason. The decision was made, we rushed into all of this. It is not the best thing that we did. Let's agree, let's accept that, and then let's just help the people as best as we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Jamieson, your hand is up. Did you want to add something?
I did, Council Lady. Thank you for the recognition. I wanted to make 2 points, but having just heard what Council Lady Suara mentioned, the point that I'm not successfully articulating here, and apparently not in the memo on Wednesday, is that the council came to these conclusions because it had concluded that this particular type of facility could not be self-sufficient. And at the time that the council voted, they were funding it to the tune of $10 million annually, and they could not. The council made repeated, passionate pleas that they could not continue that level of subsidy. And because the model has not proven apparently attractive in the private industry, that's part of the reason we could not find another operator. And I'm simply trying to point out that if we're going to enter into an emergency contract, the landscape for the past 6-7 years has proven no one is interested in stepping in, at least who's willing to go through a transparent RFQ process. Any monies that are left over go into the undesignated fund balance, and the council can remain in control of that. If it's put into an emergency contract to care for 0 patients, aren't there better ideas? I think Councilor Benedict is on to something. I think the other council members are on to something. And to something that would actually benefit patients rather than a ghost contract with an entity where the industry has lost interest. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Before we go, there are 2 more hands. Councilman Glover.
Thank you, Chair. All right, so I want to go back to 2 points, if I may. Yes, we voted to move this to a private company. We were assured on the floor, I was on the council, we were assured on the floor that this was going to fix it. This was going to take care of it. And nothing has worked properly with that. You know, there has to be a time where you kind of trust what you're being told on the floor, because we're not there in the day-to-day operations. So, you know, I'm in a dilemma here on how to handle this. That's my first point. My next thing is really a question. Mr. Cooper, if this dies on the floor tomorrow night, then what happens to that money right away? Does it automatically move into the reserve fund, or where does that money land while we're kind of going through a transition?
The funds would be used to pay whatever losses Signature incurs in going through the wind down process as the contract provides for. At the end of that wind down period, whatever money is left could be used to fund a new contract, or would go back into the undesignated fund balance that could theoretically be appropriated for something else.
And when, and help me remember, because I was sitting here trying to go back through my notes, when does the Signature contract end? What's the date, the final date with them?
It is January something. I'm sorry, I'll have to look up the exact date. It's middle of January, I believe.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so the money has been somewhat committed. So again, I have a dilemma on this because I'm concerned about the people that are there, and because I'm not out there working this every day and knowing exactly what's happening. So I just also, while I appreciate any new ideas, I want to try to make sure that we don't just leave money out there. You know, we're not exactly flush with cash right now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilman. I do not see any other hands. Mr. Jameson, is your hand just left over?
Sorry about that, Madam Chair. I'm taking it down.
All right, so we are on the motion to approve Bill 2020-505 by Councilman Hall. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes, I would note that Councilman Sledge let me know he had to leave the meeting. Benedict?
No.
Druffel?
No.
Glover?
Yes.
Mendez?
No.
Porterfield?
Abstain.
Roten? Suara?
Abstain.
Syracuse?
No.
Toombs?
Abstain.
Vercher? I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yes.
Okay. Young,
No.
2 in favor, 5 against, 3 abstentions.
All right, motion fails. The committee does not recommend approval of Bill 2020-505. Moving on to the last item on our agenda, Bill 2020-534 by Councilman Druffel, amends the debt management policy for Metropolitan government to place a cap on the percentage of budgeted revenues devoted to debt service and amending section 5.04.110 to require a quarterly debt report from the Director of Finance. Councilman Druffel, are you moving your bill today?
Yeah, I'm moving to defer it to the first meeting in January, please.
All right, there's a motion to defer to the first meeting in January. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on the deferral? Seeing none, we are on the motion. Director Cooper, will you take the roll call vote, please?
Yes. Benedict,
Aye.
Gruffel,
Aye.
Glover,
Aye.
Mendez,
Aye.
Porterfield,
Aye.
Suara,
Aye.
Syracuse,
Aye.
Toombs,
Aye.
Bercher,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
10 in favor, 0 against.
Motion carries. So that completes the agenda for the Budget and Finance Committee. Meeting is adjourned.